It is December 31st, 2021. This will be the last Daily Rob of the year for obvious reasons. You can find us on YouTube, BitChute, Rumble, Odyssey, and across all major podcast platforms. Now, without further ado, the man, the myth, the legend, he stormed into Germany this morning, Rob Smith.
Just like my old man in 44, Stu. Stu, I'm having a good time here in Krautland. There are a lot of nice looking Fraulines here. Stu, I'm wearing my water hosen, and the Fraulines tell me I've got a nice pair of wheels, by the way. But the potato pancakes were good. The Wiener Schnitzel was excellent. The St. Pauli's girl was good. But I'm here, Stu, to do a little bit of research on something that happened. But I'm going to get back to this, Stu, because of the censorship of YouTube. So I don't want to talk about these items first, if you know what I mean. I think you know what the topic's going to be. Anyway, but
we've been good at sneaking by. I will say that.
Yeah, we're stealthy fellows. We know how to play the game.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, I graduated from the University of Virginia with, I don't know, kind of a decent grade point average for somebody who did absolutely no work. Because Stu, one of the most important things in life is to know how to play the game. Anyway, Stu, the game in London with the Guardian newspaper was, they put out a little poll on their electronic website, and they said, tell us who your 2021 person of the year is. And this is where anybody could put something in. It wasn't A, B, or C, D, where they get to pick. And guess who the Brits said? Even the Brits who read the liberal Guardian. J.K. Rowling. So what did the Guardian did before the 2 or 3 days that the poll was open? They shut the poll down.
Fascinating.
J.K. Rowling, as you know, she's the Harry Potter writer, and she has come out, and she's quite liberal, but she has come out and said that transgenderism is just stupid. And that men are men and women are women, and they hate her for it. Another story, Stu, speaking of whatever, transgenderism, I don't even know if that's the right term, but on Jeopardy, Stu, I'm going to say this, and a lot of people aren't going to like this, but Stu, I speak the truth. And there's this bell curve of intelligence, and men, when you get to the top 10% or so of the IQ curve, 90% or so of those folks are men. Now, in fairness, some of the stupidest people in the world are men, and men commit all the crimes. So I'm not being misogynistic. These are just facts. So on Jeopardy, the people who always win the huge amounts are men. But guess what, Stu? There's a woman out there now, and she just took the lead of all women. She broke the record. But guess what, Stu? She's really a man. But anyway, this is kind of like the swimmer at Penn, and people are outraged. And how about the woman who held the record, who actually has a vagina? It's not fair. Anyway, so that happened. Stu, the hypocrisy of the left, how do we count the ways? Bill de Blasio, that's not really his real name, His real last name is Wilhelm. It's German, and he looks like a German. But that's not going to fly. He's got to have some kind of foreign sounding name with vowels on the end of it. But anyway, he owes the city of New York $320,000 because when he was running for president, he used the New York police as his personal security guard. Again, these socialists think everything belongs to them. It's kind of like when Tim Kaine was mayor of Richmond, he had the city of Richmond pay for all these buses to ship folks up to Washington for an anti-gun protest or something. Doesn't even cross his mind that it's not his money. So he did that. He also owes a New York law firm hundreds of thousands of dollars because during his campaign, he had all sorts of election fraud. Of course, he's not prosecuted for this. Stu. A Republican would be, but that's another story. So what does Billy Boy do? He gets permits to add on to his house in Sloat Park in Brooklyn. You know, won't pay his bills, but he's special. He deserves to live in a nice house. Stu, by January 3rd, we're going to have a little bit of some kind of saucy gossip in the Ghislaine Maxwell case, in that the court is going to release apparently the settlement agreement that Prince Andrew had with Epstein. So that could be quite salacious, Stu. You got anything to add?
So my understanding,
You're all into the salacious, Stu.
at times, my understanding of that is Prince Andrew wanted that because it put him in the clear concerning all of this, that whatever things he can be accused of, he's already dealt with, and Epstein essentially dealt with it for him as well. So we might learn a.
Well, did he boink a 14-year-old or not, Stu? Stu, did he boink a 14-year-old or not? That's what we all want to know.
I mean, the answer is probably yes.
Okay. Stu, I do not applaud his conduct, but I will say of the royal children, I like him the most. He's kind of a regular guy, and as he's told Prince Charles once, I was in a real war. And he was in the Falklands War. And I liked when I watched The Crown, I guess it was true. I don't know, they were at Balmoral or something, and Prince Andrew just dropped the helicopter in the front yard, ran in and said hello to his mom and ran out. I mean, so anyway, but we'll see what happens to it. It could be quite entertaining. Speaking of non-entertaining, Stu, who do you think is the most vile, repulsive, non-entertaining woman on the planet? With a shrieky kind of, maybe you could call it a Midwestern voice.
I imagine you're speaking about Hillary Clinton.
Stu, you're on the money. May I do the old three-pointer from the corner for you?
Thank you.
What was that noise? Swish, the net's tickling.
I always like what Shaq said. Shaq said when Reggie Miller sank a three, it sounded like yak yak. And that was because of the way the net would smack against the basketball.
Look at TJ.
Yak yak.
Look at TJ.
Yak yak.
Look at
Yak yak.
All right, that's enough.
Yak yak.
Who came up with yak yak?
Me.
You came up with it?
That's how the ball sounds when it goes through the net.
I don't,
He said he has yak yak.
I've heard the ball go
I've
through
had
the net
yiggity.
when
No.
it rips the cord, but it didn't sound like yak yak to me.
I promise you, like when you're going up against great shooters, like when we used to play against Sacramento,
Yeah.
Stojakovic, when he shot that thing, I think, yak yak. I used to be under there, trying to get the rebound. He used to come through.
Stu, I've seen your set shot before, and it's pretty impressive. Your 1955 Bill Cousy set shot from the corner.
Thank you.
It makes a nice sound when it goes to the net too.
Okay.
Anyway, Hillary was talking to somebody on that widely viewed news channel, MSNBC, some guy named Geist. I don't know who he is. I don't watch the show. But she criticized the Biden administration. And she said, we don't have a White House that we can count on to be sane and sober and stable and productive.
Mhm.
So everything this witch does is calculated.
Yeah.
So what's the calculation here, Stu? She's setting herself up for a run, or does she just not like the fact that she's not the first woman vice president or president, or what do you think's going on, Stu?
I think she's setting herself up for a run. I mean, what was that whole masterclass about resiliency supposed to be
I
about?
forgot about that.
Where she gives the speech she would have wanted to give. And then she
She cried in that, right, Stu?
definitely did.
Leaders of the free world do not cry, Stu.
Why? I think it was crocodile tears myself. I think she's a
Maybe so.
total sociopath.
Because you have to kind of have a heart to cry, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then she also said that she felt that the Squad and Progressive Democrats could sink the party in the 2022 midterms because voters want a Congress that gets things done. So
In other words, what she's saying, Stu, is it's all right to be AOC or Presley or Tlaib or any of these others and be a outright radical American hating Marxist tyrant evil bitch, but just don't tell anybody about it so we can win. All right, Stu, why am I over here in the fatherland, as they say? Well, Stu, there was a study. As you know, the Germans are very detailed, Stu. And this study was produced by the Robert Koch Institute. And they have already measured a few thousand of the Omicron COVID patients. And they have calculated that 96% of them have been fully jabbed. 96%, Stu. Now, Stu, because I understand math, which almost nobody in the media does, I'll be fair. About a third of the people are not vaccinated. So you would expect maybe a 2-to-1 if everybody got it. For every 2 vaccinated, there would be 1 unvaccinated instead of 96 to 94. But when you kind of readjust the math, bring the percentages down, and just off the top of my head, I think it's like 84 to 16% or 86 to 14%. But nevertheless, it makes it 7 times more likely you're going to get the Omicron if you are fully VACCINETD. So there's Stu. Barry, now I'm going to go talk to the boys after I have breakfast tomorrow with Brunhilde. It's a good German name, don't you think, Stu?
yeah, very Wagnerian,
Pardon?
very Wagnerian.
I think the original Brunhilde was a Frankish queen and a warlord, I think. You can check me on that, Stu. So I'll report back, but I'm gonna get to the bottom of this, Stu, because I like to look over the numbers myself. Speaking of COVID, Stu, the Centers for Disease Control are advising Americans not to travel by cruise ship, even though all these cruise ships are what, Stu? Are they 60%? VACCINETD? 70, 80, 99? Mm-mm.
100.
100% VAXED.
And what's interesting about that is an airplane, you don't have to take a COVID test to go on an airplane that's, intercontinental. But at the same time, an airplane is going to have circulated air going through it the entire time. And a cruise ship is not going to have that much of a circulated air thing. So that's just kind of my 2 cents on that.
So which would lead to more COVID?
You'd imagine the airplane.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the same air that's being recirculated
Well,
the
of
entire
course,
flight.
on a cruise ship, you've got the outdoors and the sea air, but
Yeah.
people are in compartments and mixing it up with a lot of folks. And so anyway, what else we got here, Stu? I have another COVID. In France, the infinite wisdom of Prime Minister Macron is he has said, this is just how stupid all this is, that if you're in a theater, a sports venue, public transportation, you can't eat anything. Because I guess, Stu, when you take that mask off and take a bite of your French hot dog or your escargot, then you're letting out these poisonous germs that are going to kill everybody in a second. And Stu, I don't know whether it's crossed Macron's mind or any of these elitists, but every breath you take, every particle is getting out into the air anyway. I mean, it's just incredible. And what's this going to do to the theater owners and the bar and the sports venue owners? They all make their money off concessions.
Mm-hmm.
God, these people, Stu, see, they've never owned a movie theater or a sports venue. So they don't get that people have to make money. They don't get a government check. I mean, they're hurting people. Now, Stu, this is a very interesting story, and you're going to think I'm a conspiracy theorist. You might already think that, Stu. Of the two of us, who is the more conspiracy theory oriented, Stu? Me or you?
I would say I am, but I do a good
I
job
would
of
too.
playing coy.
Okay. All right. You're an honest man, Stu. Anyway, Billy Boy Gates in 2010 gave a TED Talk. And of course, he talked about how the world is going to end, right, Stu? Because we have overpopulation and we have climate change and cows fart and things of that nature. Cow farting is a very serious problem among the left, Stu. I know. They're not worried about, being invaded by China or the Russians. It's cow farts that keep them up at night. Well, Bill was talking about how we can use vaccines. Oops, not sure if I should have said that. For population control. Forced vaccines for population control.
The world today has 6.8 billion people. That's headed up to about 9 billion. Now, if we do a really great job on new vaccines, healthcare, reproductive health services, we could lower that by perhaps 10 or 15%. But there we see an increase of about 1.3. He
said that, Stu, and he said it more than once. And I don't put it past these folks. They think like that, Stu. Stu, during the French Revolution or about that time, I don't know whether it was Robespierre or it was one of those so-called French intellectuals said, and they were leftists, Stu, said that the perfect population of France should be about 25,000. At a time when France's population was about 25 million. So what does that mean, Stu? That means that the left goes out and kills everybody.
Yeah.
So they can have this utopian world that in their minds, again, they're like God in Genesis, I mean, it's scary, but they actually think this way.
Yeah.
And he said that, and it's pause for concern. That's what I gotta say, Stu.
So this is from Forbes. A Bill Gates venture aims to spray dust into the atmosphere to block the sun. What could go wrong?
Like
So that's
nuclear winter.
So that's his solution for countering global warming,
In other words, have everybody on Earth die.
or have all the plant life cease to be. I mean, it's
Jesus Christ. You know, plant life gives out oxygen, Stu. God damn, these people are just nuts. All right, Stu, your turn. Hoss.
so. My first article comes from the Daily Mail. Biden and Putin will have a phone call today. Russian leader demands Joe speak to him directly to discuss troop buildup in Ukraine after Moscow's top UN diplomat accused US of sparking Cold War 2.0. And so we have started to be perceived as a threat by the West, by the United States. What we are having now, is kind of a remake of the Cold War 2.0. Now, I think the language is interesting, where Putin says, speak to him directly. Is Joe there? He opens up the call, and then Anthony Blinken handles it from that point forward. That's what it kind of sounds like to me. Why is Putin specifically saying, speak to him directly?
Because you know that any communication they've had in the past where normally the head of state would be talking to him, Joe Biden doesn't talk to him because he barely knows his name, and they have other operatives talking to Putin on behalf of Biden. How can this fool possibly carry on a conversation with another head of state?
Yeah.
I mean,
it would be interesting to see if Putin just straight up says, I don't think he's even mentally there enough to talk with me.
well, remember when the guy in Oregon said, "Let's go, Brandon," and Biden just goes, "I agree, let's go, Brandon." So Putin could easily say, "We're invading Ukraine tomorrow," and Biden could go, "I agree, let's invade Ukraine." I mean, he ain't running on all cylinders, Stu.
Yeah.
He's a 1972 Pinto that's running on 2 cylinders and out of oil.
And then my next story concerns Lindsey Graham. And, Maj Toure, who is the founder of Black Guns Matter, he says media stands for most effective devil in America. And this is kind of a great example of that. So the Daily Mail reports Lindsey Graham, I think 2024 is President Trump's election to lose. However, at Fox News, Donald Trump has the Republican nomination for president if he wants it, Lindsey Graham. And I think it's kind of interesting to look at how that is being kind of peddled and sold to us. Now, my question is, why is Lindsey Graham such a disloyal Republican at the end of the day? It's not like he's saying, well, I think blah, blah would be a better candidate for president. He just doesn't really seem to be able to put forward any good arguments against Trump if he really dislikes Trump. Now, it's interesting to see from my point of view that he kind of wants to be buddy-buddy with the Democrats. You can find that video of him and Kamala pounding it after she becomes the vice president. And Jen Psaki, on August 5th, 2020, tweeted, "Only in 2020 does Lady G get to push a bunch of debunked conspiracy theories while questioning Sally Q. Yates, aka an American hero." Now, my understanding of Lady G, I had run into that before. I always thought that was in super conspiracy land. My understanding was that Lady G was the nickname that the gay sex workers that Lindsey Graham frequented gave to him as a nickname. And it always struck me as being in conspiracy land. And for Jen Psaki to just throw that out there was a wild thing to do.
It's homophobic,
Mhm.
but it just shows you that the party that proselytizes about gay rights and anything goes, they don't really believe that. They will use somebody being gay as a tool to disparage and destroy them. And they wouldn't do that if they didn't feel an antipathy for homosexuals.
And this is coming from the administration that claims to be the most inclusive in history. And it was
They have more freaks than any administration in history.
And, you know, she was definitely slammed for that. And Richard Grenell even came out and said, homophobia and intolerance from the left is growing. This should be widely condemned at the press secretary.
Well, look what they do to the Jews. You know, they are so anti-Semitic.
Yeah.
But they want you to believe they're not.
Yeah, it was just, I mean, we covered this with that Sunshine Movement refusing to participate because like two of the oldest Jewish organizations in America were involved, and they saw them as being too pro-Israel.
Well, here's a question for you, Stu. You got Richard Grenell and you got Lindsey Graham. Why is it, they're both gay guys, why is it Richard Grenell has a set of testicles and Lindsey Graham does not?
I think it's because Richard Grenell isn't a bought and purchased political figure. I think there's someone who is holding something above Lindsey Graham's head, and that's why he essentially has his walking orders to be essentially one of the bigger rhinos in Congress.
But he'll float with the wind. I mean, you know, there are times he has bravely stood up and said things that I'm like, wow, Lindsey Graham said that. And then he flip-flops.
I think he knows that a good soundbite can probably get him a few $1 million in campaign funding. And as long as he does a few of those a year, he gets to be a permanent fixture in Congress. And then I
know a lot of people in South Carolina, and there's so many people who would be a better senator than he is.
Well, it's fascinating that the South Carolinians put up with a guy like that for so long.
Well, he's entrenched in power. Anyway, he's what's wrong with Washington. I've always thought he was a Sally boy, and he's a weakling.
But that's all I got for you today.
All right, Stu, guten Tag.
Right on.
German. I think it means goodbye. I'm not sure. Anyway, Stu, want me to bring anything?
I don't think there's anything from Germany that I really want.
Ooh, Stu, is that an anti-Teutonic prejudice of yours?
No, I just can't think of anything.
Lederhosen?
Definitely not.
Okay. All right, Stu.
See, if it was the Swiss, they have all these chocolates and stuff.
Right.
But I can't think of anything from Germany that. You know what? Go bring some dogs to Angela Merkel. She loves dogs.
Really?
She loves them.
You know what I think the coolest looking dog is?
What?
And I'd have one if I lived on a big farm. A German short-haired pointer. They are bad dogs, Stu. They're fast, they're quick, they're athletic looking, they're good looking. If I was a dog, I'd be a German short-haired pointer, Stu.
Right on.
All right, Stu, go get them.
Later.
Bye.
Bitch, I'm Bill Gates. Watch me pull up to the party. Open the doors and the hoes hopping out the Bugatti. Walk in the place and not cranking the bass. Making things shake like we in Abu Dhabi. Rock so much fur, call that shit a safari. Clad in the cloak cause I'm Illuminati. Corona rain coming from Asia. I'm the sauce, teriyaki.